welcome to the Explainer. Today, I am going to need your complete, undivided attention and, honestly, your strict administrative compliance. We are going to conduct a thorough analysis of an excruciatingly dense 224,000-byte novel, where quite literally, absolutely nothing happens. We are going to stare straight into the abyss of a waiting room, and we are going to watch that abyss file paperwork.
To get through this, we'll be following a very strict agenda. First, we'll look at the synthetic absurdist author. Then, the anatomy of the waiting room. Third, the eternal 13 minutes. Fourth, exploring the sentient building. And finally, we'll wrap up with a masterpiece of nothingness.
Section 1. The synthetic absurdist author. Okay, let's dive into this. Because before we can even begin to understand this story, we have to figure out exactly who wrote it. And the credited author? Well, it's not a single person. It is the Beckett-Camus-Ionesco composite, or the BCI. It's basically a synthetic authorial entity made by merging 3 dead French-language writers of the absurd into one fictional creator. This composite acts as a sort of philosophical blender. Honestly, the creators could have kept going. They could have made a Kafka, Borges, Calvino composite, or some Russian composite arguing about God in every single paragraph. But they stopped at 3. This, they claim, was an act of severe restraint. And the result? An endless, agonizing meditation on bureaucratic soul death. So what did this composite author actually produce? Try 2,934 lines. That's 224,000 bytes of data. And the entirety of this massive volume of text is dedicated to one man sitting in one room waiting for an appointment. It's a plot that aggressively and proudly refuses to start. Section 2. Anatomy of the waiting room. All right, we are now zooming into an uncomfortably close level of detail here. Let's start with our protagonist. His name is K. But, and this is crucial, he's not actually named after the letter K. As the text specifically informs us, he is named after the sound of it. You know that hard K sound? The sound of a brief explosion of breath you make when your mouth decides to begin a word and then just reconsiders. Our protagonist is literally the sound of an abandoned beginning, a failed attempt at language. Next up, we have K's only companion in this room, a brown chair. And wow, in the first 4 pages, this chair gets some intense scrutiny. It's not just a chair that happens to be brown. No, it is brownness that it achieved chair form. The text actually spends 4 entire paragraphs analyzing the chair's arboreal history, its tree biography, its rings, the seasons and droughts it lived through, and its destiny being redirected from forest to furniture without any consultation. I'm saying this with the utmost earnestness right now. The chair has been reduced to pure function, and for the first few pages, the chair is in fact the entire plot. But then, we have the glass of water on the table. Kay doesn't drink it, and very suspiciously, the water doesn't evaporate. The text points out the water's commitment to demonstrating the same level as having this special relationship to stillness. It absolutely refuses to waver. It's basically Schrödinger's hydration. Because of its absolute commitment to its own completeness and its stubborn refusal to break, the water is easily the most reliable entity in the entire room. Honestly, the water is the hero. Section 3. The eternal 13 minutes. Now, what's really interesting about this is the absolute unyielding suspension of forward momentum. The watch says 2:47 p.m. The appointment is at 3 o'clock, so 13 minutes remain, and the watch continues to say 2:47 p.m. throughout the entire ordeal. But here's the thing. This frozen clock is not a malfunction, it's a mercy. Kay realizes that if it stays 2:47 forever, the appointment is never going to arrive. And if the appointment never arrives, well, he can't fail to attend it properly. The eternal deferral of the appointment becomes his ultimate protection. This profound realization triggers an incredibly specific emotional cascade, which the novel just meticulously files away. First, Kay feels comfort at the deferred appointment. Makes sense, right? Then he feels discomfort at being comforted. And finally, the discomfort of being uncomforted after being comforted morphs into something else entirely. It becomes a tertiary state beyond both comfort and discomfort. The text literally invents a third emotional category just for the experience of watching your own feelings cancel each other out in real time.
Section 4. Exploring the sentient building.
Eventually, K does the unthinkable. He leaves room 4. And this is where we zoom out to examine the massive, infinite loops of the sentient building itself. As Kay wanders around, he starts collecting documents, beginning what the text refers to as the archive. First, he finds a blank paper,
But this isn't just an accident, it's an intended blankness, instructing him to proceed without instructions. Later, he finds a second paper that reads, and I quote, "The appointment is at 3. The appointment is not at 3. Ignore previous statement." These two papers make up the complete epistemological record of the investigation. Zero information, perfectly filed.
And this brilliantly illustrates the soul-crushing bureaucratic nightmare Kay is walking through. Behind door 56, he overhears two voices trapped in this endless logic loop. They realize that to verify something, it requires re-verification. But wait, re-verification negates the initial verification. Therefore, they have to verify again. It's an infinite regress of administrative compliance, and it is played completely straight.
So, you gotta wonder, who is actually running this place? Well, behind door 88, Kay finds a white-haired woman sitting at a desk, and it turns out she has literally been writing the building into existence since before anyone even needed it. She's the building's voice, but she admits to having a profound limitation. She says, "I write the setting, the other thing, the being present in the setting, that part I can't write, that part writes itself." She can build the room, sure, but she couldn't put Kay in it. It's this perfect meta-narrative reflection of the composite authors themselves, just staring at their own creation. Section 5. A masterpiece of nothingness. Let's see how this all builds into an overarching critique, shall we? We can look at this incredibly precise architectural roast provided by one of the analytical sources evaluating the text, and we're going to treat this deeply absurd breakdown as a highly serious municipal audit. The room? That's just a Beckett tribute act that forgot to include the jokes. The corridors? What happens when a WordPress architecture achieves terrifying literal consciousness? The 144 empty blue chairs in the waiting room are deemed an exceptionally spacious metaphor for your target audience. And the primordial subbasement with its shamanic damped earth, that's just the inevitable final evolution of a professional cook staring into the void. It is an exquisitely self-made cage.
So how does all of this actually conclude? At the very end, Kay sits in the cosmic dirt of the basement. He pulls out a stolen red pen. He prepares to make his mark. And poof, the text just stops. It's not even a cliffhanger. It's an administrative oversight. It acts as the ultimate metaphysical statement, a sentence that aspired to completion, found it completely unachievable, and just settled into an honest compromise of being entirely missing. The composite author signs off with one final note. They write, "We checked the watch, 2:47. We thought so." I really want you to feel the profound flatness of that delivery. We thought so. It's not surprise. It's not resignation. It is the mildest possible confirmation. The absolute ultimate shrug right at the exact center of existence.
The text ends by thanking the reader for waiting, and honestly, I want to do the exact same thing. Thank you for waiting with us through this explainer. You've sat through this whole analysis, examining the chair, the water, the blank papers, and those infinite corridors, but check your watch. Did you ever really arrive at the destination? Or is it somehow still exactly 2:47 and you are exactly where you started? Think about that the next time you take a seat in a waiting room.